Welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show, where we believe that growth could come in many forms: professional, personal, company, sales, you name it. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, founder of Transcendent Sales Solutions and a guide to a world of growth possibilities. I've spent my career empowering companies and their people with strategies that accelerate growth. I'm here to bring you stories of these business leaders and their trusted advisors to gain insights into their journeys and learn how they fuel their own growth. Just maybe their journey could become part of your own growth story. Are you ready? Let's grow. Welcome to the next edition of the Growth Catalyst Show. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney. My next guest, Iris Grimm, is the founder of Lebensest, LLC. She is a dynamic leadership and executive coach blending American and East German influences. Known for her doggone leadership approach, she expertly translates canine principles into powerful insights for leaders. With warmth, humor, and a passion for dogs, Iris brings a fresh perspective to personal and professional growth. Iris, welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
It's good to have you, and I'm really excited to talk to you about today and learn about your approach. Um, the first thing I'd like to learn is we're both based in Atlanta. We've got to know each other over the last several months through one of our networking group relationships. Tell me a little bit about your background, and how did you find yourself in the great place of Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, as you mentioned at the beginning in my introduction, I'm not just German; I'm East German, and to be honest, now I'm very proud where I'm coming from. Which means East Germany is also the part of Germany that was under Russian occupancy, was the so-called socialist communist side. But then, when the wall came down in 1989, which is actually it's going to be November the 9th coming up. I packed two suitcases, moved to West Germany, found a job there, went back to college, started all over again, had a business degree in international business and communication. And then I wanted to get international business experience. And that is how I ended up here in Atlanta. So that was in 1995. So it's been already 29 years that I have been here in the Atlanta area.
29 years. So you just came right out of that and you found a position in the Atlanta area?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit more complicated than that because with all of the paperwork in order to get a work permit, etc. So in between, I also worked for 3 months with Lufthansa as a flight attendant flying internationally, and then there was the German American Chamber of Commerce here in Atlanta who got a hold of my resume, and they were the one who reached out, and that is how I came here to Atlanta.
So, and I saw those in your profile of those were a couple of your positions before you started your company. So, one of my questions is, you were a marketing coordinator and then you
Hmm.
worked I think you worked as a sales assistant for Nortel.
Yeah.
How did you come from that and all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm ready to start this executive leadership coaching and leadership coaching business?
Because when I worked in corporate America, I realized early on that that was not the kind of life that I wanted to live. And that was not the area where I wanted to play. So back then, I started on my own quest of what is it that I really want to do. So it was really important for me to find something that I would enjoy doing. And so by accident, I ran into a lady who did career coaching, career assessments, consulting in that way. And I worked with her a few months, did a few assessment tests. And what I really learned at that time for myself that anything around speaking, communicating, teaching, coaching, that is something that I really enjoy doing. And even as a young kid in East Germany, I always loved to read personal growth and personal development books. And that is really when I started coaching training in 1989. And when I started my business and went to networking events and I said I offer coaching, a lot of times people ask, what sport? Right? Because back then, coaching, life coaching or
Mhm.
corporate coaching really was just in the baby
Mhm.
shoes in the early 2000s.
Oh, definitely. Now that you mention that, thinking back, yeah, it was pretty much sports.
Yeah.
There's lots of coaches now, right?
Lots of coaches, yeah. And back then, you knew coaching from the sports and also from the arts, and that is where also the business and life coaching is coming from. But again, that was really just the beginning back then, that it was an individual profession.
So one of the things, and again, there's so many different coaching kind of platforms, and there's so many different philosophies as far as how to build good leadership and how to build those type of skills. How did you come up with, the doggone leadership approach when it has to, do with the dog now? And I think of my dog. My dog
Mhm.
is Charlie. He's
Mhm.
never met a stranger, and all he does is stand in front of the pantry waiting for a treat, no matter what. And I look at him and go, he brings me so much joy. But how? And I maybe it's different breeds, but how could you look at your dog for that, for potentially principles and
Yeah.
coaching? I'm very curious.
Yeah. So these are two questions. Let me start with the first one of
Please.
how I started out. And that was really when I started, my business, and that was actually in 2001. I mean, I also always like to go hiking. And my husband said to me, "This is not Germany. You just can't go into the woods all by yourself. But if you had a dog, I would not mind you going out hiking on your own." And at that time I said, "I want a dog." So when we got a dog, which was of course a German Shepherd,
Hmm.
we started to do some training called Schutzhund, which is personal protection training, and that is actually a sport that Germans do to see whether a dog, a German Shepherd, has all of the skills and the courage to do that kind of sport that they were bred for. And so I competed with my dog in Schutzhund, and we actually came in second place in a national competition. And so, of course, in order to learn this in a very short time, we met with police dog trainers and really the best trainers, dog trainers here in the Southeast. And so when my dog retired, I said, now I have all of these skills, those skills, what am I going to do with that? And so at that time, I reached out to rescue groups and said, hey, I'm doing a workshop to raise money for your rescue group. Um, would you be interested in me doing this for you? And they were like, sure. And that is really how I started to help dog owners, teaching principles around dog training and leadership with dogs. But then when I met with my clients, with my corporate clients during the week, I used examples of the dog training to share with them principles of leadership in the workplace. And that was really, for me, doing this for many years, doing the dog training on the weekend and those workshops to raise money for rescue groups, and then my leadership coaching during the week, where I then said, all right, I really want to merge those two passions. And that is how dog on leadership evolved over many years.
Many years. Okay.
and and so now to answer your questions in regards to Charlie and whether this has to do with breeds, etc. um yeah, certain breeds are easier to lead than others, right? But any dog breed needs leadership, just like, children, teenagers need leadership. Not only that, if we are not leading our own life, because there is the leading of others and then there is the leading of myself. If I don't lead my own life, then of course I would not necessarily get up in the morning when I'm tired. I necessarily would not pursue the kind of business or career goals that really drive me, right? So when it comes to dogs and leadership, oftentimes, and nowadays you see so many dogs that are ending up in shelters, it's not because these dogs were bad dogs, but we humans failed them in our leadership of them, that oftentimes they are developing behaviors that the people don't know how to solve. And then what do people do is, instead of really working through a challenge, getting more resilient, learning, growing, what a lot of people are doing is just they discard the dog, put it in the shelter, let somebody else deal with this.
Yeah, I think of a dog in our family, and I won't mention who it is. Well, my daughter's dog, and he's a great dog, but he doesn't have that discipline. He's
Mm,
If the doorbell rings, he goes off like crazy. When
mm,
people come in the door, he jumps on top of everybody. He's a husky. He's a big, good sized dog. So
mhm.
I get what you mean as far as that training, and I understand kind of what you mean. It's how it kind of starts from the beginning, right?
It does. It does. And not only that is who does then the owner have to become so that the dog understands the boundaries and the limitations and the behavior that is required in that situation so that the dog stays safe and the human stays safe, because if they
Mhm.
are not getting the kind of leadership that they need, it can become dangerous no matter what kind of breed you have.
One thing I learned, one of my bad habits is, and I have many, but I like to watch reels sometimes in the morning when I'm drinking
Mhm.
my coffee. And I saw a reel that actually this morning just kind of popped up and it said, "Do you know what the memory of dogs are versus humans?" And it talked about how a dog has a very short memory
Hmm.
versus, like if they go and they bite your shoe or chew on something 3 hours ago and you come in and then discipline them, they don't have memories like humans do. And I was like, I never really thought about that. I mean, um,
I disagree with that.
really? Okay. Well, and that's why I'd never believe anything on TikTok, right? Tell me about that. I was
I
like,
don't know if
all
you
right.
I don't know if you need to agree with me either, but I'm just looking at it what I know about dogs, and here's what my thinking is, and also even from my experience, right? This has nothing to do with memory. It has something to do making that connection between an incident that happened 30 minutes ago and my reaction now, because the
Hmm.
dog cannot connect that, right? If I
Hmm.
pick up that shoe and say, oh, bad dog, the dog doesn't really know what that means, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I have seen it with my own dogs where, we were in the park. Um, I They found a tennis ball. I said, drop it. They dropped the tennis ball. We left the park. The next day we went to the park. The first thing they did is they went to this place where they dropped the tennis ball to pick it back up again. And to me, that is memory.
Hmm. No, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's practically, it's if you're a dog owner, it's easy to comprehend the concepts because, we're all, I mean, I'm still at 11 years later, still trying to train Charlie on certain things.
Mhm.
So, but now looking at this, how do you apply some of these principles in the corporate setting?
hmm So the way I do it is, number one is when I prepare a training program, and I know who are the people in the room. I send out a survey to find out who has dogs, what do they love about their dogs, and what are some challenging things that they are having with their dogs. And then, based on these answers and what I get back, and based on the topics that I want to teach, or that the leadership asked me to teach, I then find analogies and ways how I can merge the stories about their dogs with the principles that I am teaching, right?
Mhm.
So let's give an example, right?
Please.
Um, you talked about your dog, or your daughter's dog, the husky, acting, up when the doorbell rings, right? Question and ask one has to ask themselves is, what is the desired behavior that I would like my dog to see, or that I would like my dog to display, right? And not only that, what does that behavior really communicate what my dog is doing? Same thing is then, for example, and I show examples of how I would train this dog to become a better display better behavior when the doorbell is ringing. Let's say I'm using the topic of communication. Behavior is communication. right? Oftentimes, best example, this dog, your daughter's dog may be barking. There are a lot of people who may say, oh, the dog is barking, the dog is aggressive. But just because a dog barks doesn't mean that they are aggressive. We
Mhm.
cannot just listen to the tone. We also have to listen to our own gut and our own experience to decode the communication. Same thing is in companies, right? When it comes to communication, we cannot just listen to the words that people say, because words really just mean 7% of communication. But there's body language, tone of voice, facial expression that all make a difference. So then when you're looking go and you're going back to your dog, I will challenge them and say, so what does their body language actually communicate? Right, and going through this exercise with your dog and becoming more aware of that can then also teach you in the company to say, well, I can do it here with my dog. Let me now also pay attention to the body language of my team members, so that I'm not only listening to the words what they said, but the meaning behind it and also what they did not say.
Let's take a moment for a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Growth Catalyst Show was brought to you by Transcendent Sales Solutions. Whether your company is facing uncertainty, declining sales, or resource limitations, Transcendent Sales has the solution. Their team has decades of experience helping businesses find alignment to meet their growth goals and transforming underperforming sales organizations into revenue-producing market leaders. They take a hands-on, results-oriented approach to solving sales challenges. Visit transcendentsales.com to learn more and subscribe to the bi-weekly Growth Catalyst newsletter for insightful growth strategies. Transcendent Sales Solutions, empowering businesses to reach new heights. And now back to the show. So, when you're working in companies, are you working typically one to one, or are you able to do this in group settings as well?
So I do the doggone leadership is mainly in group settings. When I do like
Okay.
the leadership training, let's say the leadership team is coming together for a retreat or some kind of workshop like
Mhm.
that. And of course, also when I do one-on-one work with my own clients, and one of my first questions always is, do you have a dog? Because if they do, I will bring in some examples from their own dogs and their own challenges with their dogs, to find ways to get them engaged differently when it comes to their own leadership development. So in other words, when clients work with me to become better leaders in their company, they will also, as a result, automatically have a better relationship with their dog, and some of the issues that they had with their dogs before, they disappeared.
And you're not, if you're a cat person, I can't help you then.
Um, I'm not suitable for that. That is correct. I know my
Oh,
lane. I know my
okay.
lane of what I
So,
know, and what I don't know. I have no problem to admit that.
okay, all right, that's funny. So it's so pretty much most of your clients, they understand what it is to have pets. They understand that. If I like if I said to you, look, I've never had a pet, never my parents never let me have one. I'm 50 and I never have planned to have one, it's not going to be a good fit for you.
For my one-on-one clients,
Yeah.
it is a good fit, because again,
Yeah.
if they don't have a dog, is no big deal. I still can work with them. I have been doing that
Sure.
for 24 years now. When it comes to the group training or giving like a
Hmm.
workshop or a day-long retreat,
Hmm.
if they are not you, if they say no, we really don't want the dog on leadership approach, then I say I'm not the kind of person for that,
Got it.
because
No.
to me that is by far more fun to get people engaged. It gets them out of their typical thinking of what leadership is like. It's more spontaneous, flexible, and that is what I love.
Yeah, and it really is because I remember the first time you explained it to me when we spoke on the phone, and I was like, did you say dogs? I mean, yeah, because again, it's so out of it, and I would think some people might be hesitant for it. It is, like me, my mutt lays here on the floor, like literally, and doesn't move. How is he gonna or she gonna help me with leadership?
You will be surprised.
Yeah,
You will be
no,
surprised, because
yeah,
again, there are so many analogies. between canine and corporate leadership.
Hmm.
Whether it is really about you becoming aware of yourself first and your own energy. Because how often have you seen people who have anxious dogs, but then
Hmm.
when you are looking at the humans, they are just as anxious?
Hmm.
Not only that, dogs are moving into a home, and they used to be in a certain way, but as soon as they're moving into to this home, they are shifting their personality and their behaviors completely, right?
Hmm.
It's because dogs are swimming in our emotional soup. They are picking
Hmm.
up all of our cues. They are picking up also our own emotional baggage,
Hmm.
right?
Have you seen your training? Have you had clients come back and say, this helped me so much, but then it also helped me with my relationship with my dog?
Yes. Yes, because I always point it out like that.
Hmm.
And so, what oftentimes happens when I do these leadership programs in companies, there are no dogs in the room unless it is a pet friendly organization
Sure.
where the pets are going to work anyway, right? But I have had already so many people who contacted me afterwards and said, by the way, Iris, what you mentioned there in our program, I tried it with my dog
Hmm.
and it's working. And now this is not an issue anymore.
Hmm.
And I even had somebody who said, you know what, just like what you mentioned, I never had a dog. I never want a dog. But when I walked out of that, I actually, there was a short moment where I thought, wow, wouldn't it be nice if I had a dog? Even
Hmm.
though they never pulled through with it. But at the same time, if people don't have a dog, they have friends who have a dog.
Hmm.
They are seeing that with people on the street walking their dogs. And again, leadership is not something, is not a title, is not something that I do when I walk into the office. Leadership is a behavior, right? Leadership is a skill. And not only that, I say leadership is an equal commitment to results and relationships, never compromising one for the other.
Hmm.
What most often happens is what you see with people in companies, leaders in companies. What I say is when they go to the workplace, oftentimes they are arming themselves up, getting ready to go into the office and functioning from the neck up. When they and you know why? Because it's also all about results. We got to get results, results,
Hmm.
results. When they come home, they are so tired of all of that that they are like saying, functioning from the neck down. It's all about the love I need from my dog. Oh, I don't want to, reprimand my dog or correct my dog because my dog is my best friend. I love my dog and I want my dog to love me. It's all about relationship, right? But it
Hmm.
has to be a balance of both, because a company cannot get results without relationships. They
Hmm.
cannot get results without, when they don't care about their people. And just
Hmm.
like when you are only loving your dog, but you're not setting boundaries and limitation for your dog, you are having havoc in your life. Your couch is chewed up, your best shoes are chewed up, and you are miserable. It's a miserable life.
Hmm. It makes sense. Is there different environments where it's more applicable as far as the type of companies?
Um, Not really. It's typically, let's say, obviously, in the pet industry, veterinary industry, there a lot of people understand these principles more, and for them, it's much easier for that to even to click. And again, veterinarians are also people similarly to physicians. They are not known for having excellent leadership skills.
Hmm.
At the same time, tech companies that oftentimes allow now dogs to get into the workplace and becoming a pet friendly organization, when a company incorporates that, that is also a great way then to talk about leadership, because this is a culture shift. The culture in that organization shifts when they are bringing pets to the workplace. So why not use this to have now an even broader conversation about how we are also then amping up the leadership in the company at the same time.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit, and I'm sure you have many success stories as far as the impact that it's done, as far as, even, leadership, employee engagement, all those different areas.
And giving a result, giving an experience of a company.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good to know.
Yeah. So one example is a tech company that I worked with, and I worked with them for 5 months. And what we've done is we've done ongoing workshops. Again, it happened on Zoom. This company was not here in town. It happened on Zoom. And what we've done is really, we, number one, is identified all of the different areas where the leadership thought they needed to grow. For example, it was one of the topics was about um, being more mindful when it comes to communicating. Another topic, and especially also in their written communication, not just in their verbal communication. And then what we used is we used mindful exercises that they also could do with their dogs. And the way we had done it, and again, this company is in what do you call it? They're working remotely. So those people who had their dogs in their office, and again, in that company, it was like there were only two people who did not have a dog, but they were fine with that. I had the agreement of them that they would be fine. So we actually also did exercises, mindfulness exercises that they did with their dogs. And so what really helped with that too is because think about it, when people are talking about their dogs um, with other people, there is an instant connection.
Hmm.
And so
Very true.
that is very difficult um, for people that are working remotely to build that kind of connection. But because we also included their dogs into those conversations, and their dogs were on camera, etc., it immediately shifted also the connection and the bond of the people that worked in that team.
One of the other areas where I've seen a lot of dogs go in the, we'll call it the corporate world, is dentist office. I mean, I was in my dentist office, a couple weeks ago getting a lot of work done, and they had
Uh-huh.
the comfort dog walking around. And
Wow.
sometimes I wonder, I'm like, yeah, they have the comfort dog. I wonder if that's for me, but potentially also it's for the team as well, I think. And I could see the team with a dog in the office, and they have, this is my our friend here, if you need somebody to help, a calming thing. I'm sure it brings, in this environment like that, would bring benefit to the employees as well.
Of course it does. And I didn't know that that is common in dentist
Hmm.
offices, but I could see it because having a dog there is, think about it. Most people, they are very anxious when they're going to the dentist, right? And so
Hmm.
having a dog there, and the research has been done that when you are petting a dog, right, that is you are releasing calming hormones for yourself. Petting calms you down, right? So having the dog there is a great way for the patients to feel calm. It's also a great way for them to what's the word, um, to not pay attention to what is coming at the dentist's office. And by the way, I apologize if you hear my dogs.
And then usually we would cut this out of the soundtrack, but based on it, we're not going to,
Right.
because this is perfect.
But so it changes their mind a bit and distracts them from the procedure, from the upcoming procedure, right? But just like as you said, I mean, it is helpful for everybody in the company, including all of the staff members.
Mhm. It definitely is. So, my last question for you is, if someone's interested, and this has been, I mean, very educational for me learning about your approach. If someone's interested in learning more, how you might be able to help them with a seminar or some type of coaching, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can go to my website, irisgrimm.com, or they can also call me on my cell phone, which is 404-441-5370. And again, I also have a contact page on my website. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Just Google my name, you
It's
find me.
hard not to find you. And,
I
the
know.
one thing that, and I respect you so much for what you do and as a business owner, because you've done something that I think many business owners, we dream of doing. How do I take something I love and I say the word monetize it into something that I feel like when I go to work, I don't feel like I'm working every day because I'm doing what I
Yeah.
love. And I think you've accomplished that. And I think you're somebody that I look up to because you've been able to accomplish what many still try and try and try and never figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and the most important part for me is really is also serving people not only in the corporate world, but also serving people at home with their dog. And I always say, that is how I can feed two birds with one corn, because what really matters to me is that we as a society um, become even more kind, or become kinder to animals, because there are so many good animals, cats as well as dogs, even though I don't speak about cats, but so many animals who are in shelters right now, suffering. And if I can do my little part to help people so that they are not um, getting frustrated with their animal, that is a great day for me.
It's a great day for all of us. So, and I agree with you. Iris, I appreciate you so much. And thank you for taking some time on the Growth Catalyst Show today.
Thank you so much, Dan, for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. Remember, you can take these stories of growth and make them part of your own journey. Learn from them, draw inspiration, and let them guide your path of growth. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I look forward to our next journey together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing.